Hi and welcome to the Geek Legion of Doom. This is a horror movie review and I'll be having a look at Lost Boys, a classic vampire movie if you've not seen it. So this movie came out in, I believe it was 1987 and stars Jason Patric, Kiefer Sutherland, Diane Waste, Corey Haim, Corey Feldman and Jamie Gertz, and was actually directed by Joel Schumacher, who of course went on to direct the much to love Batman and Robin. But this is a far better film than Batman and Robin, let me assure you. Now, to be fair, this movie can actually be argued as one of the first movies to kind of introduce sort of vampires. It's this kind of like this teen vampire thing that we even see today in films like sort of Twilight and things like that. But I have to say, if you're a younger viewer and you've kind of not watched Lost Boys, I suggest going and checking it out. But be warned, it is dripping with 80s cheese. Now, this movie really takes a place in this kind of fictional, I think it's fictional anyway, US town, which is apparently kind of the murder capital within the States. And it focuses on this kind of young family of this kind of recently divorced mother and her two sons, one played by Jason Patric and the other Corey Haim. And they're kind of moving to sort of live with their father. And Jason Patric ultimately kind of gets sort of involved with this kind of group of young people, and this girl particularly played by Jamie Gertz, the character's name Star. And it turns out, of course, this sort of group of tearaways are actually vampires. At the same time, Corey Haim's character, the younger brother, kind of gets involved with these two lads who turn out to be vampire hunters. Of course, a little bit convenient there, but there you go. And then the mother has her own kind of arc dealing. She kind of is involved with this potentially a kind of new romance with this sort of guy who works in a video store. And of course, all of these three sort of different sort of character arcs all converge and they're all connected ultimately. So that's practically the plot. I mean, there's lots of kind of teen sort of angst, or 80s style sort of teen angst at least, and kind of cool shots of youngsters doing, you know, bad things and acting cool and hanging around, that kind of stuff. But it's a really I'd say atmospheric film, and kind of, it's not a particularly gory film. There are a couple of sort of mild sort of gore shots, but ultimately I think it does a really good job of kind of getting you to really get involved in these characters. I mean, they're all very different. I mean, the vampires are kind of led by Kiefer Sutherland, who's kind of the leader of the kind of younger vampires. You get this sort of sense that every single character is kind of an individual in this movie. That's one of the things I like. You've got the kind of, I think there's sort of 4 sort of main vampires, and in each one you kind of get a little bit of a sense they have their own sort of characteristics and sort of personality, even though we don't see a lot of them on screen for a hell of a lot of time, and some of them barely speak. Alex Winter, who was obviously most notably known for sort of Bill and Ted's films, that kind of is in this as one of the vampires as well. I think Billy Worth is another one. Nevertheless, you know, it's a fantastic movie. I actually really love the characterization. I kind of, Jason Patric, I think he plays a character called Michael, and he's really kind of the protagonist here. Ultimately, he's starting to sort of turn into a vampire himself as he kind of gets more and more seduced into this sort of lifestyle, and he's kind of has this kind of romance with Star, played by Jamie Gertz. You never know quite the kind of, like, I think David plays the kind of the main vampire, played by Kiefer Sutherland. You never really know quite the motivation, whether he sort of fully trusts Michael and kind of bringing him into this kind of vampire fold, which really makes it an intriguing film to watch. I have to say, Corey Haim's character seemed like he did a different movie to me, I've got to be honest, and he's kind of hanging around with Corey Feldman's character and another guy called the Frog Brothers. And then they sort of like these two lads who had a comic book show who just happened to be vampire hunters. And to me, I always felt they seemed like they were in a different movie. Now, I think I'm going to be in the minority of people who say that, because I know this film's quite beloved. But nevertheless, I always felt that those characters seemed so far removed and kind of so different from the kind of the rest of the movie. They're pretty much comedy relief and kind of act very sort of oafishly and kind of almost spoof-like. There is a quite amusing scene over dinner where they're kind of trying to prove that this particular character is actually a vampire, and things don't go quite working to plan. But, you know, nevertheless, that's kind of maybe a criticism I have it, and that's maybe personal taste. But overall, this film has got, it's got a fantastic soundtrack. yes, it's very, very 80s and kind of the fashion and the stuff like that. You may point and laugh at this, this sort of time in 2013 and what have you. Nevertheless, I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. If you're a vampire fan, I still think it holds up today. If you can kind of look past maybe some of these sort of 80s fashions, I think the characterization, considering it was for a long time it was a standalone movie, it's so good. There's a couple of sequels that were kind of made more recently, but they're nothing compared to the original movie. I'm not saying this is some kind of a cinematic masterpiece, but I really enjoyed it. It's got such a great atmosphere, such a great soundtrack, and I actually love the characters in this movie. So I want to give this one an 8 out of 10. What did you think of it? Leave me a comment. I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.